Welcome to the Incredible Fathers podcast, where we liberate men from mental demons, build them into chivalrous and loyal husbands, and craft them into incredible fathers. Welcome, my friend. I'm glad that you're here with us today, with me specifically, and with all of us that are listening. I'm delighted to have you on board today. So today we're going to talk about 4 simple marriage tips for creating a stronger relationship with your spouse. These are really powerful ones, and a lot of times people just don't practice them. You may have heard them before, but my encouragement to you today is start practicing them, start putting them into practice in your marriage. So the first one that we're going to start off with today is listening without jumping into problem solver mode. So what I mean by this is as men, when we're communicating with our wives, oftentimes we're hardwired for problem solving. So when our wives bring something to us, we immediately begin thinking like, okay, this is a problem, this is an issue, how can I resolve it? And without thinking too much about it, we immediately jump into that processing mode that we have. So for example, my wife, she came to me very recently and said, we don't have any hot water. Did you know that? And I said, that's not good. But I said, I can fix that. So immediately I went to the hot water heater and I started troubleshooting. And sure enough, I found after doing a little electrical testing that our thermostat had gone out. So I went to the hardware store, came back, installed the thermostat, refilled the tank, and it was operating and working well again. And my wife was very thankful to have hot water again. So that's very common as husbands to get requests like that from our wives. The challenge is oftentimes when they come to us, they really just want to talk and they're thinking out loud and they're expressing their thoughts and their feelings, and they just want you to listen and to understand and to provide empathy and a listening ear friendship. And as husbands, sometimes we don't get that. It doesn't phase us. We immediately go in this problem solving mode and we think, well, have you tried this? Have you done that? I could do this for you if you want. And we're ready just to solve the problem and move on to the next thing. When the reality is our spouse wants a conversation and she wants to communicate her feelings to us. And so we have to be sensitive to that. It's not easy to do, but with some being conscientious, we can certainly become better at this. And I know it's something that I've grown better at over time. One of the things that's always interesting to me is when my wife will go out and spend time with some of her friends, whether it's a book club or going shopping or, doing a play date with the kids, whatever it is, when she comes back, she's just lighter, she's happier, she's in a good mood, and she's actually more willing to engage with you too. Like there's just something about that female companionship and being able to express themselves and talk. So like when women get together, they love to talk and they love to communicate and they love to share their thoughts and ideas and express that. And it just becomes this huge therapy session without them even realizing it. And for us as men, sometimes we're happy to sit in a fishing boat and not share more than 12 words during the whole fishing trip. And yet we have this great time together. Whereas women, if they got into the boat, they'd have this amazing 2-hour conversation and forget all about the fishing poles. So those are some key differences between men and women. So just kind of keep that in mind. If you're tempted to jump into problem solver mode, you need to evaluate for a moment and be discerning and say, is she wanting to engage in a conversation, or does she really want me to solve this problem, like my water heater problem I just told you about earlier? And if you're confused, if you're not sure how she feels about things, then just ask her. It's okay to ask, did you want me to solve this problem, or do you just want me to hear you out on it? You could ask something like that. Okay, let's move on to step number 2. The second one is to give praise and to give thanks. So when you're working with your spouse, it's very important to find good things that they're doing and praise them for it. For example, my wife, just today, she was working on an art craft project. So she was making sweatshirts for Christmas gifts, and she was tailoring them to local themes. And she had cut out her own fabrics and her own lettering, and she was putting them onto these blank sweatshirts. And one of them kind of stood out to me, and I just said, "Wow, this is really creative. You did a really great job on it." And she immediately came over and she wanted to tell me all about it, which was great. And she appreciated that I recognized her creativity and her art skills, and that she was doing something nice for someone else. And all of a sudden, she engaged with me at a level that wasn't happening earlier. And so if you want your spouse to love you more, praise them. Give them the praise that they deserve. Sometimes it's just the tiniest things that you can find that they do well. Um, one of the things that my wife has is great posture. Like she sits up well. And like so if I just complimented her on and how she carries herself, that just makes her float even higher and you know, purport herself even better. Um, our wives need that from us. They need that encouragement. They need that praise. Also, being thankful is really important. I think as husbands, it's easy for us, like the problem solver mode that I talked about earlier. We get into these work modes. We have these one track minds. We're warriors. We see a problem, we go and attack it, we finish it. And sometimes it's hard. When we come home from work, we've been in problem solver mode all day. We've been focused on this one thing very intensely. And when we come home, we kind of have to shift off of that. And a great way to do that is just expressing gratitude to our spouse. So, if, for example, if your spouse created a really nice meal, you could thank her for that meal. What's even more important than a general thanks is being specific. So having a very specific thank you. So you may say, you know what, you did an amazing job on this pasta. You added the right amount of oil and the sauce on this has got incredible flavor on it. Like, what did you do to season it? Like, be very specific on how you compliment and thank her. And that will do a lot to help spur on conversation, and she'll love you all the more for it. There's nothing that builds up trust and confidence in someone else when they're praising you and thanking you. And I'm not talking about in a flattery type way or even in a condescending type way, but in a way that's very uplifting, it's inspiring, it's sincere, it's genuine. That's what I'm talking about. So that's tip number 2, praise and give thanks to your spouse. So the next one I want to talk about, it's a negative one. It's one of those negative things we just need to cut out of our lives and get rid of. So when I was actually first married, I got advice from several mentors that it would be really important for me never ever to use sarcasm in my marriage. And when I was discussing that with my wife, she totally agreed. She was like, there's really no room for that, but let's not make it part of our marriage. And so we made a pact together that we would never be sarcastic with each other. Now, there have been times where we've slipped up on that, but you change and you do better. But for the most part in our marriage, sarcasm has not been a part of our conversation. It hasn't been a part of our language. And that has brought a whole new level of respect for one another and also protection. We've created kind of a force field or shield around ourselves where we're not going to damage each other's feelings or even ego or character by using sarcasm. So sarcasm is actually really in its nature, it's very demeaning. And sarcasm gets away from just being straightforward in your communication. It's moving away from the yes and no communication or just having a pleasant conversation to now you're implying meanings that your spouse now has to interpret that are oftentimes very negative and derogatory or even teasing in nature. And so you want to move away from that sarcasm. Now, I know for a lot of you as men, you're in the workplace, maybe you're in athletics, sports, jujitsu, flag football league, whatever it is, or maybe you're fresh out of high school or college and sarcasm was just how you survived. Maybe you've been in the military and sarcasm is just how you survived boot camp. I get it, right? So sarcasm sometimes something we use to, pull ourselves through. But in a marriage, it really has no place. You can't use sarcasm in a marriage. It will rot out your marriage, and you don't want to have that happen. So when you're married, make a decision today not to use sarcasm anymore. Be very deliberate about it. Talk to your spouse about it. Both agree together not to use sarcasm. You'll be amazed at how much this elevates your marriage and your relationship and builds increased confidence and trust. It's really a phenomenal step to take in your marriage. Okay, so that's number 3, don't use sarcasm. Now let's move on to our last one, number 4. Now this one's related to number 3, but do not tease your spouse. Now I know, just like sarcasm, sometimes how we get along with our buddies or our friends, but your spouse or your wife is not your buddy and is not your chum, okay? Your spouse is a higher level of friendship, okay? It's a very sacred, covenantal relationship, and you can't treat it like you would your buddies or your acquaintances at school or in the hunting club or at work. It's not the same, okay? So don't treat it the same. If you want your wife to feel like a queen, you have to treat her like a queen, and not teasing her is one of the key ways that you can do that. Now, this is something, once again, my wife and I, was advice that we got very early on as we were preparing for marriage while we were actually engaged. And it's something we talked about. We said, we will never tease each other. It doesn't matter where we're at, what kind of circumstances, even if it's between each other and no one else is around, we're not going to tease each other. And we just decided that was going to wait the way it was going to be. And our marriage has been so blessed by that. It's been 22 years now that we've been married, and we love each other more now than we did when we were first married. And of course, when you're first married, there's a high level of intensity, of affection, and even infatuation. But now, after 22 years, that love has really become something sweet, something very powerful, very eternal. And I can't even imagine like teasing my wife now, because it seems so inappropriate to do it, because of how I esteem her. Now, that doesn't mean I'm perfect, doesn't mean she's been perfect. There's been times where we've teased each other. It's been jokingly, with a sense of humor a lot of times, but we pretty good at correcting ourselves and saying, "Well, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that. That was inappropriate." And that's really how I think all marriages should be, is you just cut out the teasing. It's not worth it. It's not worth the pain. Every once in a while, it's not going to hurt too much. But when it's a consistent thing, it really does start to hurt a lot and really wears on the marriage. I've been out to dinner with other people for business or, you know, group dates or whatever, with my wife, and we sometimes see other couples teasing each other in front of their friends or their peers or their coworkers. And you know what? You can literally see the pain in the spouse's eyes and in their posture and in their body language. Like, it's really incredible. My wife and I will comment on it after that dinner or after that event. And we'll be like, that was so sad when so and so said such about his wife, or his wife said, such and such thing about her husband. And we'll notice that. Like, it's huge, and it hurts. Like, it's not good. It's not healthy for the relationship. So just cut it out. Don't make it a part of it. And if you're in one of those dinner situations where you notice somebody is teasing their spouse or being sarcastic towards your spouse, one of the things that's going to be really helpful is actually just changing the subject or talking about something else, or praising or thanking that those individuals or that couple, and just kind of changing that environment to a positive one rather than a negative one. That can actually be a really helpful thing. And if you know the people really well, you may even want to like pull them aside afterward and just say, "Hey, I noticed this happen at dinner or at the event. Let me just tell you about something that I do in my marriage that's really helped me." And we literally have just cut out sarcasm, and we've cut out teasing out of our marriage. It's made such a huge difference. And I would just invite you to make that change in your marriage, and I think it'll help a lot. Now, you kind of have to feel that out, and it depends on your relationship with the person, or what the situation is. But that may be something worth doing, like as a real friend, just saying, "Hey, if you want your marriage to thrive, stop teasing your spouse, or stop being sarcastic with your spouse. It's not worth it, and it's actually very damaging." And I could actually see the pain on your spouse's face during this dinner, and it really kind of hurts me, and I could see it was hurting them, and I really don't think that's the way to go. Okay, so those are our 4 tips for today. So, listening without going into problem solving mode. The second is praising and giving thanks towards your spouse, and doing it very specifically in a very detailed manner. The third is not using sarcasm, being very straightforward in your communication, very genuine in your communication. And number 4 is cutting out teasing, getting rid of teasing. Once again, just using very uplifting communication and language with your spouse, only never teasing them, never demeaning them. It's my personal experience that if you'll do these things, you will really elevate your marriage, and it will really become a real gem to you, a real treasure to you, and you'll value it above anything else. As that relationship becomes stronger and tighter and sweeter, you'll just notice such a huge difference, and you'll be so thankful for these 4 principles, these 4 tips, and applying them in your marriage. I am thankful for my time today with you, friend. It's been a delight to spend some time with you today. I hope this has been really helpful. If this is something that has kind of stirred your mind, stirred your soul, I would encourage you to write about it in your journal tonight. Also encourage you to share this video with someone else that could maybe benefit from this counsel in their marriage. Or maybe they're just getting married for the first time and maybe they need to hear this advice. Well, it's been great being with you. I'm Philip Mason. This is Incredible Fathers Podcast, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you.